In today's episode, we're unpacking the true meaning of leadership and why it's no longer tied to titles and permission. We explore how personal branding can become a powerful tool for self-definition, especially for women navigating underrepresented spaces like finance, tech, and entrepreneurship. From navigating her identity as a third culture kid and a campaign manager for Femi Influence, anything but conventional. She's a blogger, a self-published author, and a public speaker who helps women step into their power unapologetically. In this amazing conversation, we'll dive into how she built her voice and why personal branding is more than just self-promotion, and how every woman can start leading without waiting for permission. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Wellness from Scratch. My name is Marissa Jackson, and I'm so happy you're here with me today. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button so you never miss an amazing conversation about well-being. And without further ado, let's jump into this conversation. Hi, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. All right, let's get into it. So, you've described yourself as a third culture kid, growing up as a Bangladeshi Italian in Italy, and then now moving to Canada. Can you share a moment when you felt caught between two cultures, and how did you learn to embrace your unique identity?
Yes, it would be my pleasure. And to simply answer that question, I would say it was not a unique moment where I felt like I was in between. I would say it was more like a series of events where I always felt like I was in between and I was like pretty much stuck in between the two cultures, you know? And I would say that the moment where I have discovered that this was an actual struggle, it was when I moved to Canada. And it happened when people would ask me questions such as, "Oh, where are you from?" And this is where I did not have an answer. I didn't know what to tell them. Sometimes, I would say I'm from Italy and people would question it because I don't look Italian. And if, let's say, I would say I'm Bengali, then people would question it anyway because they would see that I don't have it. I have a strong Italian accent when I speak in English. And so those were I would say that was the particular moment in my life. And then from there, I started to do more like an inner work of myself, of like understanding who I am as a person and how I want to show up myself to the world, until I finally decided to embrace the two cultures and accept myself and tell the world, that I am Italian Bengali. I don't have to choose either one. It's just up to me to decide, and it's up to me to, have those two cultures embodied in me, basically. So I embrace both of them, and I always say I'm Italian Bengali.
That's amazing. I love that. What do you think was a turning point when you stopped trying to fit in and started owning your hybrid identity? And what did that look like for you?
So I would say that for me, the turning point, it was probably the fact that people were always labeling me based on what they liked. And I did not like that. I didn't like people telling me who I am. It was always very bothersome. It was bothersome because I was like, you're not going to decide if I'm Italian, or you're not going to decide if I'm Bengali. It's up to me to decide it. And the day that I finally decided to tell the world that I am Bengali Italian, it happened on a wedding. I went to a wedding, and I came back from this wedding, and then I posted a picture of me where I say, "Oh, here's your Italian Bengali version of Jasmine, the character from Aladdin." And that's when I owned it, like I was very sure about it. And I felt at peace when I came to that conclusion. Like I was very confident about how I was feeling. So that's how it looked like.
It's amazing. How has your multicultural background shaped the way you advocate for women today?
It definitely gave me a reason to do the things that I do right now, because I think the fact that I have a South Asian side of me, and how, I've seen how South Asian women are treated, it gave me a reason to do the work that I'm doing right now to empower other women. And not only mentor women that are, South Asian, but I also mentor women from other backgrounds. And I love the connections that I do with this women. I think there's a lot of learning that you get. You get a lot of connections and you share a lot of the struggle. So I think, I don't know, for me, it just gave me the reason to do the things that I do right now. It has been really a beautiful experience. I think you never stop learning and you never stop learning from other people's story, especially from other women. And you feel empowered automatically when you connect with other women. So for me, it gave me a reason to do the things that I do because I have two two vision of the world. There is the Italian side, there is the Bengali side, and then there's one that I created, which is the fusion of the two.
Absolutely. So you mentioned facing gender bias in finance. Can you tell us about a time when you were misunderstood or excluded and how you responded?
So, to be honest, there was never a time when I felt I was gender biased. I do work in a very gender biased industry, like any other woman who works in the industry. And there are so many industries that are very gender biased, very male focused. But here's the thing: I think no matter what, I still, advocate for myself. And to be honest, actually, there was an episode that happened to me. Actually, I was applying for a job, and every time I apply for a job, I'm always looking like who's working for the company, who's in the management team, making sure that there is representation, diversity, equality, all these things that matter to me. And I went to this interview, and I actually did ask the interviewer, like, "What do you do to promote corporate social responsibility and things like that?" And I told him that I don't see that many women in your website, and he appreciated my honesty, and he was very much aware that the diversity part and gender equality was not being represented from their website. But he was also very honest in telling me that the reason being was because not a lot of women apply for this job. And, I get it, but then I also feel like that if you don't promote yourself as a company that wants gender equality, like of course no one is gonna apply, like have at least some women in your management team, like it's just that. I mean, I appreciated the honesty. I still went for the interviews. I went, for the second round and so forth. And I think he really liked me. But at the end, I said no to the job just because I felt like it was not a fit. Not because I didn't believe in their values as a company. I just felt like it was not a fit. But this was to show that, it's okay to talk about these things in an interview, especially if you go and apply for a job that is very, male dominated.
Exactly. And I think that even probably it put you more into his line of sight because you're asking the questions that people don't ask. Your brain is thinking in ways that maybe other people's brain just kind of like go with what is supposed to go. You're questioning it. And that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So you say women don't need permission to take up space. Was there a moment you realized you'd been waiting for validation, and how did you break free?
Yeah, that's true. We don't need we don't need permission to own up our space, and we don't need a seat at the table either. I always like to go with those expressions because I think as a woman, but I also think that as daughters, we're always seeking for validations from our parents, first of all. And you always feel like it's never enough. It's never enough. And then it sucks because, you do so many things to make these people that are so important to you to make them happy, but then it's never enough. And this is when you understand your value and your worth is that your job is not to make people happy, it's to make yourself happy. And if other people are not happy, that's not your fault. It's their fault. I would say that because I'm in my 30s, I think I'm able to care less about people's opinion and care less about people's validation. Because at the end of the day, I've done the work that I had to do for myself. I have graduated, I have a good job, I have all these certification, but then it's never enough for people and you can't go to satisfy them because then it goes to a higher level. And then when you reach that level, it goes even higher. And I think as a woman in my 30, I like to live my life more unapologetically and without, caring too much about people's opinion. Because people's opinion are just there, but they don't define you as a person and they don't define your worth, like how worthy you are, what you're able to do, what you're capable of doing. And being able to let go of people's thinking thoughts it's a hard work, but once you do that, you break free. You really do break free because you go for the things that you want.
Absolutely. We have to learn to let go of the expectations that we have. Yes, absolutely. Can you tell us about a time you had to advocate for yourself in a male dominated space and what did you learn?
I like this question because I feel like I'm advocating for myself every day. It's not just a day in particular, but every day I have to do this job of advocating for myself, and only I can do that. Only I can do that. But one particular moment that I had to do that was for a promotion that I wanted at work. And it was a couple of years ago. It was like 4 or 5 years ago. And I knew it that I deserved the promotion because, because of my experience, the fact that I have been long enough in the company and I did not get the promotion. So there was an email that came out that says, the people who got promoted, my name was not there. So the next thing I did is I went to speak to my manager and I said, I think I deserve this promotion. And I said, I'm going to work hard to get it because I think I really deserve it. And I think I made a list of why I deserved that promotion and why it was something that I really wanted to have. Let me tell you, at that moment, I really did feel sad and demotivated, but I had to really speak about it to someone, speak up about it to someone and to my manager, especially to make sure that she hears. And she was a female manager on top of that. So making sure that she hears my concerns and address my concerns. So there was a particular moment where I really had to prove myself, and then next year I finally got that promotion. So I did get that promotion, but it did teach me that, if you don't say anything, you're not gonna get anything. That was a big lesson. So now I don't wait, I don't wait. If there is something that is bothering me, crossing my mind, the project that I want to work on, something that I want to do, like I don't wait a performance review, like which is at the end of the year. I do it regularly, making sure that my concerns are heard. And so I'm always advocating for myself, always.
That is a beautiful quality to have. How do you handle imposter syndrome when it starts to creep in?
You know what? It is our biggest enemy, imposter syndrome, and I do have sometimes second doubts about myself. Just to second guess, and I think it's normal that you start second guessing. And I think this is coming from the fact that being a woman, we're raised to be perfect. That's the problem. Like it's just that our parents, they put so much expectation and pressure on us. They want us to be perfect, and that carries for the rest of our life, where everything that we want to do, we just want to be perfect, and we start second guessing when we don't tick all the boxes. Every time I think about imposter syndrome, I'm always thinking about how would my male counterpart think about it and how would he handle that situation. And so every time I think like that, I'm able to tackle this situation better. Like I don't know, maybe you want to, let's say you want to give a presentation or something and you don't feel like you're good enough, but then you think, okay, how would my male colleague feel about it and do it? And that's how I shift my mindset and be like, no, if he can do it, I can do it too, like. So that's how I do it. And one thing that I usually do is writing positive affirmation sentences. That really helps. Like, I'm good at this, I can do this, I'm gonna be great. Like, I'll always, because when you write positive sentences, that shifts the way you think about things. And good vibes attract. If you have good vibes, you're attracting good vibes. So positive thinking, so I can attract good vibes. So I always tackle it that way.
Amazing. That's beautiful. I honestly, just as a side note, I've literally loved every answer you've had so far. And I honestly identify with a lot like of that. Like I'm an American and I live in New Zealand. So I kind of understand like having to advocate for yourself every day and all that stuff. It's a very beautiful story. So who was the first woman who made you feel seen in your career? And how did that change the trajectory of where you were going and how you thought?
You know what? It was my manager. She is actually, so basically this manager, she's based in Cayman Islands, and the company that I used to work for, of course, is in Montreal, but they have the head office in Cayman Islands, and she used to be my manager. And honestly, this woman, she's so incredible. Like, I just have to say it. She's so incredible. Her name is Nancy, and she is very, very charismatic. Very, very super charismatic. And when she talks, she has such a nice, like, accent. It's she has a South African accent. You can just listen to her and never get tired of her. And she has a finance background as well. So what happened is I would often go to her for questions and advice about things which were not strictly related to work. It was more about my professional growth or my personal growth, but outside of work. And she would always giving me these good tips and advice. And on top of that, I always look up to her. Like I remember thinking, she's a manager, but she doesn't look at me as I am her inferior. Like she's very down to earth and she puts everyone on the same level, which is why I really liked having her as a manager. And for me, she was probably the best manager that I had. And on top of that, she always believed in me. She always pushed me to work hard. She always gave me good guidance on how to do things at work. And I do appreciate all the wisdom that she has shared. So she was probably the first woman, I would say. Yes.
That's amazing. That's amazing. As a mentor, what's one piece of advice you give women who struggle to own their achievements?
Celebrate themselves, because here's the thing, we like, and it's not just the women that I mentor, but if it's women that are in my life that I work with, or maybe family, like related people. And one thing is that we probably are achieving a lot of things, but we don't take credit for it and we don't celebrate ourselves enough. And I think it's important to do that. So I always say, like, go celebrate yourself, and it doesn't have to be like a big party. You can just have a night out, have a night in, maybe with some friends, watch a movie, have your fancy coffee, drink, whatever you do. I think it's important to do that, because it's like, I always say, it's positive reinforcement. It's like a circle, and it just motivates you as soon as you get that, hit of adrenaline when you're celebrating yourself. And I always say, like, it's important to celebrate ourselves and the work that we do. We sweat for all of these things. I don't think women do enough of it, honestly. We just don't do enough of it. And you know what I do? I try to celebrate them. When they don't celebrate themselves, I do it for them, because I'm like, you deserve this. You just deserve this. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think as women we're raised to be perfect and to do everything and to take care of everyone and to make sure everything is okay. And it's a process for us to unlearn those skills that we've always had. Can you share a moment of a mentor, of someone you've mentored who has transformed their confidence, and what was their breakthrough moment?
So there was a girl that I mentored for 6 months, and we are still in contact. And so she's much younger than me. She's in her teens. We have like probably like 10 years apart. And I mentored her for 6 months. She was my mentee. But to tell you the truth, I always looked up to her because she's so driven. She's very driven and she's very ambitious, and she wants to get all these things done. And sometimes I have to be like, okay, you have to like put a break because you can't do everything. And one of her goals was to find a job, okay, to get an internship in finance and to do all of these things that she's so big. She's like, I want to like, go in New York, do all these things in finance. And eventually she did get the job. She got it, I think, a couple of months ago, and then we went to celebrate. And I was so happy for her because, her drive, her ambition, her confidence brought her to where she is today. And for me, that was, for me, it was, an achievement on its own, because it showed that I was able to, do something in her life. But I could see that she never gave up, no matter how hard it was to look for a job. And so for me, this was probably, I would say, the biggest reward, but it was also the biggest transformation that I saw because, she never gave up from the beginning, and it took her a while. It took her like 2 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. You call personal branding self-definition. What is a limiting belief that you've had to unlearn in order to step into your own public voice?
That's a tough question, I have to say, because it's like two things combined. Because if you speak about personal branding, one belief that I had was that to have a personal brand, you need to have a product, like an actual tangible thing to sell. But I realized that it's not true, because you, as an individual, you can bring a brand, you can be a product as well. Like, I am a product, like having knowledge, being able to share knowledge means to, deliver a service, deliver a good or product to someone. So that was something that I had to like change, because it's not true. I think people always think that, to have a personal brand, you have to sell something. It's not true. It's really not true. It's really not true. And personal branding can be translated into skills. And this is where I would say public speaking comes in, like the way you present yourself, the way you communicate to other people, it just shows who you are as a person and how you want to be perceived by people. So for me, like personal branding is not just about products or services, it's really about you as a person and individual.
Right. Yeah, because we can bring more to the table than just like physical things. We can bring our minds, our ideas, our creativity.
Yes.
Was there a post, a talk, or an article you shared that felt risky but opened unexpected doors for you that you didn't realize?
You know what? I don't think I ever shared anything that was risky because if there was, I would have not done it. I think, what you put out there is always going to be out there. So you want to be careful about the things that you write. There are things that I would like to write. And when I do, I will do them anonymously. Yes. So, yeah, just because I don't think I want to be associated with the topic, but I still want to get the message out there.
How do you balance authenticity and professionalism when building a brand?
Just staying true to yourself. I think when you are true to yourself, it you're being honest to yourself, and I think it just shows in how you present yourself every day, whether it's personal or professional life, and it just shows that you're authentic. Because let's say I am playing a role when I am in my corporate job, and then I'm completely different outside of it. It's not authentic. It's not. It's not. And even at work for me, it's important to be authentic and to talk about things that matter to me because it's like for me, being authentic, being honest to myself, true to myself are like important values. And I want them to be showing in every aspect of my life. It's not that as soon as I'm out of the door, I leave that. No, it's always with me. And it shows. It shows because it shows that you're genuine.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Can you tell us about your first time public speaking and how you felt, what terrified you, what surprised you, and how you got through it?
My first time public speaking was at Toastmasters. And how did I feel? Very nervous, very, very nervous. And I think I just wanted to run away right after that. And they called me to give a mini speech, and I wasn't even sure what I was saying. I think I said so many different things all together. I was like rushing through it. And then I went to see, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And when I stood up to speak, I was nervous, aching. My heart was beating so fast. I was like, I'm never doing this. And then I came back to my desk. I left and I told myself, I'm not going back to doing this. But then the week after I showed up, they made me again speak. And I was like, oh crap. And and after that, what happened is that I just decided to stay part of Toastmasters. I've been part of it since 2019, and it was by staying to in the club that I was able to get through it. I'm not saying I'm a perfect speaker, but I'm a bit more comfortable now when it comes to speaking or when it comes to going on stage and talking for a couple of minutes. Like I'm not feeling as nervous. Of course, you always feel a bit nervous, but it does not feel like the first time. But it is a skill that you have to keep working on nonstop.
Absolutely. I still struggle with public speaking today. I'm still so scared of it. Oh man, you're stronger than I am. How do you prepare when speaking to an audience that might doubt your authority?
It's an interesting question, and I think that so here's the thing. I don't know if you have ever paid attention to any speeches or any conferences that every time before the speaker comes to speak, he's introduced by the MC. That introduction part is super fundamental because it builds the authority of the speaker. Like it shows what the speaker has been doing, it shows what the speaker does, it shows all the, I don't know, accreditation that you have, all the things that you have accomplished. So that's one step, I would say, to build that authority or credibility because it shows that you know your stuff. So that's very, very important, I would say. So it's always important to have a good introduction about yourself. And also, if you have a good personal branding, typically that also helps with your authority because you'll have people coming to you because they know that you have those kind of skills and talents that you're looking for. And your personal brand just speaks for its own. It speaks for its own. Like it, how people perceive you. So those two things are very important when it comes to authority.
Amazing. Yeah, definitely. What's one technique you use to connect with listeners when the topic might feel heavy?
When a topic is heavy, always try to simplify it as much as possible. um, es- Especially when it's heavy, less is more, because you don't want to like bombard your audience with a lot of information. You want to make it simple. You want to also make sure that you have stories that are relatable, and stories are what get people engaged a lot of the times. People like to see stories, hear stories, rather than reading statistics, facts, all these things that might be boring. And also when you have a heavy topic, it's a good tactic also to engage with the audience. Ask questions, call them out when you are talking. It just shows that you're engaging with them. They feel engaged, they feel involved, and it helps. But I would say really easy topics, not easy topics like less is more, easy language, being engaged with the audience, and storytelling is probably the key to make sure that a speech is successful.
Yes, storytelling is, I'm learning that in my own journey about making videos. Storytelling is so important. And
Important. Yeah.
yeah, it really is. As I had no idea. Yeah, that's beautiful. Walk us through a day in your life when you're juggling finances, mentorship, and creative work. How do you protect your energy?
So here's the thing: there is my 9 to 5, and then there's my 5 to 9. But it's more like 6 to 9 rather than 5 to 9, because from 5 to 6, I'm on the bus in the metro, and so I do put a lot of boundaries there. Like I have boundaries, and I have also Google Calendar, which is my best friend, and I'm always blocking time. Like if there are things that I want to do, I'm blocking. And of course, my 9 to 5 is already taken every day, so there isn't much that I can do around that. But I do a lot in my 5 to 9, and that's how my 5 to 9 looks like. Usually, I have a day, or I have a couple of days that are just for working out. Then I have another day which is just for mentoring, and then I have another day which is just for creative work. Typically, the weekends are for that, for creative work, editing video, creating content, and so forth, and also for mentoring. And then during the week, it's more about, let's say, I would say like working out, journaling, cooking, things like that. And so for me, it's Google Calendar, definitely. And I would say definitely putting the boundaries.
Absolutely. What's a non negotiable ritual that grounds you when you feel like life is chaotic?
Working out, it's not negotiable. No, 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 no. Like every time I feel down and every time that I feel stressed, I just go to the gym or I go for a run and I feel better. And this is like non-negotiable. Like even when I have a workout, I always say that's my religious moment. Like no one can touch that. No one is touching that moment. And if I don't get a certain number of workouts per week, I get really really frustrated. Like I'm just like, no. Yeah.
You got to let it out. You got to get it out. Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. That's so awesome. What's a dream project you're working towards that scares and excites you?
I want to deliver a TEDx. It scares me, but it excites me, and it's a work in progress. I'm part of this masters for this reason, because I want to deliver a TEDx eventually in the future, and I know it will happen. I know it will happen, and so I put it out there in the universe so that I manifest it.
I cannot wait to watch your TED Talk. I will watch it and I will send it to everyone I know. That's amazing. You will get there. You're so smart and driven. Can you tell us a little bit about the book that you've been working on and created?
So the book that I created is called Discovering Your Identity at Birth, from International Struggle. So I am Italian by birth and Bengali by blood. And in the book, I basically talk about my life in Italy as a third culture kid from a perspective of a South Asian woman. And I make a comparison and contrast between the Bengali culture and the Italian culture. So it's sort of like a memoir, because I go through my childhood and my teenagehood, and how it was for me to be in a world where I felt I was misplaced, and where I felt like I did not fit in. And at the end of the book, I finally come to the conclusion that at the end of the day, it's about seeing multiculturalism as your strength and not your weakness, because you have two cultures, which means you have two different traditions, you have two different languages. There is a double of everything. And so I say it's about embracing our cultures and and the different cultures that we have within us.
Absolutely. What do you want women to feel after they've read your book and heard you speak?
I think I want people to have a sense of belonging and community, especially after reading my book, because I didn't have that many people that I could look up to, and I did not have anyone that could relate to me. But I think now we live in a world that people can really relate to each other. And I think there's a lot more, South Asian women with multiple ethnicity. There is a lot more third culture kids. And so I want people to feel like, they're not alone in this journey.
Absolutely. That is such a beautiful sentiment. I love that. And for our last question here today, what is one thing you wish your younger self knew about power and belonging?
But power and belonging, it's also a tough one. And I think what I would have said to my younger self, or what I wish my younger self knew about it, is that belonging is about creating your own space that you're comfortable with and owning your power. I would say that's yes. And why I say this is because, again, I think we always try to fit in, and we always try to fit in people's standards, and it's never gonna work. It's never gonna work.
That was an amazing conversation. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I really love hearing from you guys, and let me know what you want me to talk about next. If this episode resonated with you, check out this one right here, where I talk to an amazing author about her story of sustainable farming, resilience, and coming back from struggle. As you can tell in this intro and outro, things are a little bit different, so the set will be changing a little bit here and there. Just trying to upgrade things, as I said in like one of my first episodes. So thank you everyone for bearing with me. And yeah, make sure to follow me on all my socials. The links are down in the description below. I post on Instagram multiple times a week, and it's a really good way for you to connect with me if that's something you'd like to do. Well, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.